Welcome, my dear viewers. Thank you for being with my channel and watching my videos. I'm telling you a story from my life. Watch this video to the end. You will understand what I'm telling you, so as not to miss my new videos. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your explanations in the comments. Then let's go.
I come from a relatively small family, just my mom, dad, my sister, and me. I am 28 and my sister is 24. I may be a little biased because I am the one in the situation, but I'm not exactly the favorite child. Everyone seems to do what my sister wants. They give her whatever she desires. It's been like that since we were kids, and it's so annoying. When it comes to me, everyone thinks I should be able to handle myself and be mature. It's true, but not as a kid. What could I do for myself at that time? Anyways, it helped me become a better person today. At least I don't depend on my parents for anything, unlike my sister. At 20, I moved out of my parents' house because I was honestly sick of their favoritism. I moved to my first apartment, a small one, as that was all I could afford while going to school and working at the same time. I was super proud of myself for pulling it off. From there, I kept growing, graduated from school with honors, and went on to do my master's, which I completed last year. I'm doing pretty well for myself, but it still feels like I am invisible to my family, and I have come to terms with it. I'm getting married to my longtime boyfriend and the love of my life. We've been together for about 5 years since my second year in university. My relationship with my family affected me a little, to the point where I thought I couldn't have meaningful relationships because I felt like I had nothing to offer. But when I met Ricky, that's not his real name, by the way, and built an amazing relationship with him, I realized that I am not the problem. I decided that I will no longer beat myself up for not having a close relationship with my family. We do talk once in a while, but it's all just surface stuff. We are just not close, as most families are with their first child, which I honestly think is strange. Anyways, Ricky and I have been going at it for years, as I mentioned, and he proposed to me the day we went out to celebrate my master's degree. I was so excited. We had talked about marriage a lot, and we both knew that was where our relationship was heading. He proposed to me in the most romantic way, in the presence of my closest friends. I had thought we were just going to hang out, and then one of my friends said we should speak about what we all mean to each other. She convinced us to do it. I later found out that it was all an act. Though when it was Ricky's turn, he spoke about everyone and left me for last. He said the sweetest things, and I was almost tearing up when he proposed. That moment was so magical, and even reliving it takes me right back to that spot, and I feel the exact same way. I love him so much. I didn't feel the need to tell my family until we were ready to start making plans. After all, they didn't even know I was dating, and I don't think they cared. Ricky finally persuaded me to tell them, so I went home one weekend with him. That day, he was looking so good I had to tease him about trying to impress my parents, and he didn't deny it. My sister wasn't home when we arrived, but she came in a few minutes later. Can you imagine that she kept flirting with him even after she found out that I brought him home as my fiancé, who I was obviously going to marry? I was irritated at my sister's behavior and the fact that my mom said nothing to her. Ricky helped me keep my composure, though, because he held me tightly to his side the whole time. My parents seemed happy for me. Well, it's not like they had a choice. I wasn't there to take permission, but to inform them of my decision. After some weeks, Ricky took me to one of our favorite places. and I noticed that he was being extra gentle with me. He did that when he had something serious to tell me or something he wasn't comfortable with, so I braced myself up for it. I was so curious that before we got to the restaurant, I asked him what the problem was and what he wanted to tell me. He asked me to calm down and that he wasn't running away. He told me that my sister had been flirting with him since they met. She found him on social media and wouldn't let him be. So now it's uncomfortable for him. She told him to leave me because she was better for him than I was. I was furious. How far could she really go? I didn't want to speak to her on the phone, so I told Ricky that I was going to my parents' house the next day to set things straight. I arrived at my parents' house at noon. I had called beforehand to let them know I was coming, and I wanted everyone to be home because I needed to discuss something important. It was Saturday, so I could easily get everyone together. My mom told me that it was perfect that I was coming because she wanted to speak to me as well. I told them that my sister had been flirting with my fiancé, and I wanted her to stop immediately. There were so many other guys, and mine was already taken, so she needed to behave herself. Thinking about it now, I could puke. My mom said that was why she wanted to speak to me, because my sister hadn't been herself since she met Ricky, as she was in love with him. She asked me to let Ricky go and let my sister have him. Ricky wasn't a toy. I told them that they were the most selfish people I have ever met in my life, and I was ashamed to identify with them as my family. My mom did all the talking while my sister was crying crocodile tears, and my dad, as far as I am concerned, is a figurehead because he does whatever my mom wants. Mom told me that I was the selfish one putting my needs before my sister's, and that it was what she had tried to teach me for years, but I never got it. That was the most ridiculous statement I had ever heard in my entire life. I told them that I would do no such thing. I have been with Ricky for 5 years, and we are engaged to be married, so I can't break up with him because my sister, who only met him once, developed feelings for him. My mom said that they wouldn't be a party to my wedding since I cannot fulfill their wishes and do what they are asking me to do as my parents. Dad didn't say anything, but I knew he would just do what she wanted because he didn't have a backbone to stand up for himself. It was not the first time that they treated me this way and expected me to be at the beck and call of my sister just because she was unhappy about something or throwing some stupid tantrum. After that, I left. I was so upset that I cried in my car as I drove back home. How did I get there? And who were these people? Could they even hear themselves? If the tables were turned, would my mother ask my sister to break up with her fiancé for me? Ricky thought I had been lying when I told him what happened. He had known about how my parents treated me, but this threw him off. I told him that I was sorry that my family wouldn't be at my wedding because my sister is in love with him. Even saying it out loud felt ridiculous. Preparations for my big day were going really smoothly. My family hasn't come back to their senses. My sister is still trying to get with Ricky. He blocked her on every platform that she ever reached out to him. So I hope that sends her the message and she understands that he would never leave me for her. If I were a man and the sister of my fiancé was trying to get with me, especially openly, I definitely would not agree to it. My friends have been the best, and they have been there for me, making sure I wasn't stressed out about my family issues. My best friend called my mom and sister to speak some sense into them, but they were adamant. My mom admitted that the only reason why she said she wouldn't come to the wedding was that she thought it would stop me from getting married to Ricky. I laughed so hard when I heard that my mom really thinks she's that important to me. Sure, I want my family at my wedding, but if they are going to act crazy, then they can stay out of it. It's not like they ever made me feel important or wanted in the family before, so my wedding wouldn't be different. I still sent them an invitation, though, so it was solely on them if they decided not to come. I was letting them know that they had a chance to be in my life, but in my mind, I knew that it was the last straw. My relationship with my family depended on how they handled this. If they came back to their senses, then we would move past it. Still, if they decided to act funny, then I would cut them off my life because I don't want any negative energy around me. The ball was in their court. My wedding was all I ever dreamt of and more. I'm writing this from my honeymoon destination as a married woman. I can't believe it. Guys, I am seriously married to the love of my life, Ricky, who is everything to me. I am so thankful to him for standing by me and not running away from me and my crazy family. Speaking of which, they didn't come to my wedding, and it was really painful. I kept giving periodic glances at the congregation to see if they would show up, but they didn't. Ricky knew that that was what I was doing, so he hugged me and asked me to focus on him, and I would be fine because right there and then, both of us were all that mattered. It was our day, and no matter who was absent or who wasn't happy with our marriage for whatever reason, we were happy. And it was the best day of our lives because we had waited years for this. Ricky's family is so loving. So they would have to be enough for Ricky and me because right now, my heart doesn't recognize that I have parents or a sibling. I don't know if it would ever change, but I choose to be happy regardless. NTA, I can't believe your parents. They are not fit to be called parents. If I ever meet your sister, I'm gonna beat her for real because she needs to get over herself. NTA. Silent father. I'm super disgusted. He watched his wife destroy his family. NTA. You don't know your family anything. I'm surprised you were this patient. Next story. I don't really know how to even start this. Well, I'm 32 male, have 3 kids, a 6-year-old, 4-year-old, 7-year-old male, but only my daughters are shared with my wife. I married my wife 6 years ago. Before her, I had a friend with benefits I met in college, but she had to move out of the city, and I couldn't hear anything about her. A year ago, she contacted me out of the blue to let me know I was her 6-year-old son's father, which pissed me off. We did all the tests to make sure he was my son. And yeah, he is 100%. She made that clear. She contacted me because she was struggling financially and needed my help, not because she wanted to destroy my life. My wife wasn't happy about this, but as it happened before I met her, she couldn't complain. I'm no one to deny a child the right to spend time with his dad since I know how much it hurts. So I asked his mom to let me spend the weekends with him. He is great, and we learned to love each other. So we changed it to 50-50 of custody for her to settle down, and because I love spending time with my boy. Our house has 4 bedrooms, 1 for me and my wife, 2 for our daughters, 1 for guests. It was until my son came into the equation. Once my son appeared, I renovated the room to give it to him, even though he only spent weekends with us for the first 3 months after I found out. He had a room of his own in our house, so he feels welcomed, and now that he spends a week with us, he personalized it and really feels like it's his own. My daughters love him, and he loves them back. My wife is indifferent, but I'm not asking her to be my son's mom. He already has one. This past week was my time to have my son. My wife knew it, but my in-laws were going to visit us. We only have 4 rooms, so we had 2 options. They sleep on the couch or they go to a hotel. My wife didn't say anything, and I assumed she knew what the situation was since my son was staying with us that week too. And even if he wasn't, this is his room now, and no one goes in when he isn't around. So I think my wife assumed I would skip my week since in-laws were coming, and they used to stay in that room. Her surprise was when I picked up my son and took him home. She was kind of pissed off and said, "You know my parents are coming, right? I know what's the issue." I replied, "Where are they supposed to stay?" said my wife. "In a hotel." She went mad and started telling me to take my son back and skip this week, but I said no. This is also my son's house and has more rights to be here than the in-laws. So in-laws had to stay in a hotel, but didn't last that long since they left 3 days later. Supposed to stay 2 weeks. Now my wife says I humiliated them and calls me TA for not skipping my week. But if I skipped, I had to wait 2 weeks to have him around, and my son loves spending time with me, and I love spending time with him and my daughters. AITA for the way I treated my in-laws and not skipping my week. EESH. Y'all need to talk about stuff. I bet your in-laws left because they weren't expecting to drop a couple of grand on a hotel when they thought they'd have a place to stay. Yeah, you suck. But for expecting you to send your son packing, your wife is definitely in awe. That being said, it really doesn't sound like you give a damn what your wife thinks about having someone else's kid dropped on her like that. You act like her feelings 100% don't matter when they should. Now, you shouldn't ostracize your kid, but treating your wife with some grace just might be the decent human thing to do. It. Mostly because communication from both of you is atrocious. You both 100 knew there would be a conflict. There's no question about that. You both chose not to discuss it with the other because you both assumed the other would change their plans to accommodate. It doesn't matter what the solution should have been, you both suck for not talking about it in the first place.